So good afternoon to all of you. As sir was discussing on the strategy to qualify the civil service examination, first of all I would like to say that there are 4 papers of GS. Out of that, paper 3 and paper 4 are the subject. I am talking about GS only, are the subject which will create a difference in your marks, in your UPSC marks, because paper 1 and paper 2 are those subjects which are continuing from a long time. Means you can go and search for last 35 years of paper for paper 1 and paper 2, but paper 3 and paper 4, these subjects have started from 2013 only. And when you talk about the ethics paper, I would like to say one thing, that you will have to study and write as much as you can. You should study case studies and give it a thought. You mean what people do, that people read a case study and try to search for an answer for it. Means they can ask to a friend, they will ask a teacher. Like in this class only, if I will talk about a case study, you should not go and search for its answer. You should try to give it a thought. Let thoughts come out from your mind. Jot down those thoughts and try to connect it with your traditional knowledge. Means you must have read any book on ethics. All the books are good, in which some theories are given, theories about philosophers. Try to connect it with those theories and try to jot down your points. Then try to write your answer. After that, go to someone else, and then after that go to try to search for the hints of those case studies. Similar is the case with the paper 3. It's also a vast paper. Economy is vast, and then your science and tech is of course a vast subject, and then security is vast, and then disaster management is also vast. In all these questions, there is no traditional book, and questions will come from the newspaper. So try to read a question, try to connect it with your traditional knowledge and the things which you have read in the newspaper. Try to write an answer on yourself. Then try to search for its answer, which is the model answer for that. That's what I would like to say. And for paper 1 and paper 2, I would just like to give a passing remark. If any of you have not done the last 35-year question papers of history, geography, economics, so just in the next week, just do that. That is the most important thing for qualifying the examination. Go and there also don't try to look for the model answers. Write your own answers, then look for the model answers. So just go and get a book of the last 35-year question papers and write the answers from them. And as sir was saying, that we should talk about internal security, and we should also talk about ethics case studies. So I would like to start this session with the ethics case study, which is related to the job of a Indian Police Service officer. The case study goes like this. There is a person who is an ACP of a subdivision in Mumbai, and during the course of his investigation, he came across a man named Ashraf, who seemed to be radicalized. If you talk about the security problems of India today, the most important and the most dangerous problem is radicalization. And this problem is spreading terrorism all across India. Earlier we used to talk about terrorism from across the border. We talked about that Pakistan is sending its mujahideen and they are attacking India. Today that is not the problem. If you go in Kashmir, 90% of the Kashmiris don't want to remain in India. That is radicalization. You can find people in Mumbai, you can find people in Thane, you can find people in Azamgarh of Uttar Pradesh. So this is radicalization, and those Indians are against the Indian population. So that is the most important problem. So this ACP, he finds a man Ashraf who seemed to be radicalized by the online propaganda of the terrorist group Islamic State. He was involved in sharing the gruesome videos and photographs on social networking sites. He also motivated others to go to Syria and join Islamic State. He wrote derogatory remarks against the Indian state on social networking sites and openly supported the activities of IS. Hopefully you must be connecting it with a person. According to evidences, he also received flight tickets and certain amounts of money to travel to Syria. However, the ACP got timely information and he arrested him and prevented him from going to Syria. He asked his seniors, who asked him to book it under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Unlawful Activities Prevention Act is an act against terrorism, under which you can book any person for at least 1 year. Means that is for bail will not be granted till 1 year. Means evidence can be minute also and large also. Even on minute evidence, bail would not be granted. So you can ruin the life of anyone by booking him under UAP Act. However, he understands that he is just a radicalized youth who has not perpetrated any terrorist act. He is just radicalized. He is just sharing videos. He has not done any terrorist act. He is just supporting, means he is emotionally and morally supporting the Islamic State. Booking him under UAPA would ruin his whole life and his family will fall into poverty. This may also impact the feelings of the community to which he belongs. How will you handle such radicalized youth? Would you strictly go by law or take a middle path to save his life and also prevent any terrorist act? So what thoughts you get after reading the case study? Can anyone tell? What will you do in this situation? You are facing a radicalized youth and you have an opportunity to book him under UAPA. But he is only morally supporting Islamic State. He has not done any terrorist act. And if you book him, first of all, his life will be ruined. But you can always ruin the life of a single person, nothing happens. But it will impact the psyche of the people around. And then more will get radicalized. What will you do?
Contact his family members.
So we'll do something to change his mindset.
What will you do?
So to contact his family members,
Yeah.
like even MHA also did in the last 2 years. Okay, and counseling, blocking the websites. Because
Blocking the
social,
website, yeah.
social security is the social.
Any other option?
Counseling through psychologist.
Yeah.
Do we have psychologists in our country? That should also be taken into consideration.
Actually, what happens in society, there are two sets of people. One are civil servants and other are local leaders. The local leaders are there who influence the psyche of these persons, who influence the behavior of these persons. As a police officer or as an IAS officer, you are there to implement a law. And most of the police officers are posted from a different state to a different state. So they don't meddle too much with the local population. So the best strategy, what I suppose, is that he should approach the local leaders and try to influence them through those local leaders. And whatever crime he has done, he should be booked under it only. Like sharing a video on this thing, social media site, can be booked under Information Technology Act also. So he should be dealt in a very careful manner. And apart from that, all preventive actions should be taken to avoid him from doing something else. So he should be monitored regularly, help of the local leaders should be taken, and then he should be counseled. Counseling will happen through his parents and local people only. So what generally people do is that they monitor him. They target these people, and intelligence agencies, they see the behavior of these people, and they don't directly arrest him under UAPA. They try to book him under small cases, try to influence his behavior by fear or by other influences, and then try to avoid it. Because if a hard action is taken on a minor person, then the people who are there in Syria and IS who are trying to target, they get their ambitions are fulfilled if we do like this. So they will get more people radicalized, and then more people will support their agencies. So based on this case study, it comes out that radicalization is one of the most important problem of India today. But apart from that, there are other threats like nationalism and terrorism, which we would be discussing. Before that, I would like to talk about internal security. I would like to say what is national security. So national security.
LOHIT, see, he is administrator, well, we are teacher. There is a big difference. The same thing what he is articulating, how you should have understood that. This is called factual knowledge. In our terminology, we say what he is saying. You should have a clear understanding about UAPA Act. You should have knowledge about Information Technology Act. And you should have ability to explore different possibilities. Like local leaders, their role. So somebody is talking about counseling, certainly taking help of psychologists, etc. But appropriate term is called counseling, not psychologist, because this is impractical. Basically, you know that when you write, the psychologist should be consulted. So in our society, this is not a culture. Right? Have you heard like this? Rather counseling. So we should not write those points which you find that impractical. It becomes artificial. Most important thing is that you should have analysis of the case study should be done, which certainly at least one I will do when I tell properly all these things. That we say facts, values, references, philosophies, etc. So certainly, let's say that a candidate who is appearing in this examination, he may not be aware about exact law. Let's say UAPA law or Information Technology Act. Then what term you can apply if you do not know? Okay. When the question is saying that whether he should be booked under this law, means whether you will go as per law or you should go as per your understanding, situation, etc. So the appropriate thing when you do not know, you should write, this is how called appropriate law should be applied. Okay. There should be rule of law. Okay. We should not harshly try to punish that person. There should be no disproportionate application of law. Okay. This is also a case of perceived. He has not still committed act of terrorism, but this is a perceived act of terrorism. Okay. So when you face a case of perceived act of terrorism, or the person may become future threat to terrorism, so what action you should take? You have to apply with these all terms which we are speaking while writing that answer. Okay. So it requires an element of, no doubt, factual knowledge, also understanding, but more importantly, how to approach it. Right. How I should approach, because certainly you may not be knowing all those, let's say that cases, laws, sub-laws, etc. regarding those, but major aspects you should know. This is one. Yes, he told in beginning about thought, your own thought. In very beginning he talked about, you should have your own thought, then you should consult to this and that. You should know that ethics is about thought process. Ethics itself is about thinking. Ethics itself is not about only right or wrong. Ethics is about thinking, whether you have critical thinking, whether you have rational thinking, whether you have inquisitive mind, whether you have art of questioning. This is called ethics. And that's why you should have this kind of inquisitiveness. Right. Certainly not very odd type or not very radical type. Right. Because when you have a critical thinking, a rational thinking, so certainly this is what it is called ethics, and this is what about approach. It is not always about coming to a conclusion, what is right or wrong. Perhaps it is not. Right. If you go to the origin, the person who talks about ethics, Socrates, so this is how he gave the concept of art of critical thinking. An unexamined life is not worth living. This is what he said. So an unexamined life is not worth living. So are you examining your life? Examining means all these issues happening, even take this act of radicalization. How you take the act of radicalization? Do you have a rational view or you have a biased view? So here then let's say that there can be left, right, centrist. So all, if you have left or right or centrist, it's biased. Do you have a critical view? Do you have a rational view on that? So your approach will tell this, and that is ethics. Ethics is not that you write some philosopher's name. Ethics is not that you write some philosophies. Right. So then your answer becomes ethical. Right. Ethics is about the way you write answer itself is ethics. Right. This is all. And that makes a huge difference. Right. So don't think about that if I write some philosopher's name or some others, so then my answer becomes ethical. To give it some ethical color, it will become more artificial answer. So anyhow, now he'll join and
Yes, apart from what sir said, I would like to say that whenever you come across terms in the newspaper like UAP Act or IT Act, in the examination you may not be knowing all these terms, but whenever you come across these terms in the newspaper, try to search for it in the internet and try to understand them as much as you can, because any sort of terminology can be asked in the examination, and then because of that terminology your marks get reduced. So I won't say that you just try to memorize things, but at least read it for once, whatever you read, and try to give it a critical view. And if we start with national security, there is a definition, and you can go through a definition, that's not important, but it consists of the parts like socio-political stability. Territorial integrity means that our borders should be safe, and economic security means that the country should be economically self-dependent. Then environmental security should be there. Energy security means that we should have a definite source of energy supply. And then cultural cohesiveness and spiritual consensus means that we should have a national vision. So these are the terms which national security consists of these all terms. But when we talk about internal security, national security consists of internal as well as external security. So you should know the difference between internal and external security. That though it's not a very important term, internal security would be the security of the country from internal actors. Like Naxalism would be an internal security problem, or radicalization would be an internal security problem, because that is a problem created by the Indians themselves. External security would be security problem from external actors, like the army of Pakistan will attack India, that would be an external security problem. Or Pakistan supported terrorism, that would be an external security problem. And then this internal security, that is the whole responsibility of the central armed police forces and state police forces. And this external security, that is dealt with the Indian army. And you can go through these terms, and then you should also know the difference between what is the law and order problem, public order problem, and security of the state problem. And the security of the state problem is which is included in the subject of UPSC. And this law and order problem is a smaller problem which happens only in a small area. And public order problem is a problem when law and order problem takes place at various areas, it becomes a public order problem. It's like a 3 concentric circles are there. I would like to just explain you. See, if a man of one community rapes a woman of another community in a small village, it becomes a law and order problem of that village only, because the people of that village from one community will clash with the people of the another community. But that problem has not expanded to other cities, so that becomes a law and order problem. But this trend happens in nearby villages also, or nearby district also, that a person of one community is raping a person of another community. So then people of all the districts nearby will come out. This may affect the state also. But if one community sense it as a matter of pride and then start attacking, like we have seen riots of Babri Masjid also, and then Punjab riots also, that becomes the internal security problem, because that has affected the whole country or a major part of the country. So these law and order problem, public order problem, and security of state problem, these are minorly different terms. Law and order problem will affect only a small area, public order problem will affect nearby districts, and security of the state problem is a problem which is affecting the whole country. And the topic which is in your subject, in your examination, is internal security problem of the country. And you should be knowing about the different different sources of internal security problem of the country, and you can go through them. That those are not that much important. I would like to start with the first problem, which is terrorism. There are various definitions of terrorism available, and there is one definition of terrorism which is holistic, which is mentioned in your UAP Act. But I would like to talk about an easy definition. It says that the terrorism is the calculated use of unlawful violence or threat of unlawful violence to inculcate fear, intended to force or to intimidate governments or societies in pursuit of goals that are generally political. तो इसमें कुछ लोग रहते हैं जो वायलेंस करते हैं ताकि वो लोगों को डरा सके और उस लोगों को डराने से वो गवर्नमेंट से कुछ अपनी डिमांड्स पूरी करवाना चाहते हैं. दैट इज टेररिज्म इन सिंपल टर्म्स. एंड टेररिज्म हैज अ इंटेंट and it has a tool and it has an effect. So the intention behind a terrorist act is to threaten the unity, integrity, security and sovereignty of India. And the tools they use are, they use a bomb, they use an firearms and poisonous gases and then online propaganda to create fear. And the effect is to influence the governments and push their demands over the government. And apart from other topics, one of the most important topics for your examination will be financing of terrorism. And because this demonetization step was taken, the most important reason was to hinder the financing of terrorism. So I would like to talk about the financing of terrorism first. So financing of terrorism and the financing of terrorist groups takes place through three different methods. First is your state support. So first of all, these terrorist agencies are funded by another country. Like Pakistan will support the terrorist agencies of India. When we talk about self-funding, these self-funding happen through local networks and transfer from their sister organization. Like if agency Indian Mujahideen is over here and Lashkar-e-Taiba is in Pakistan, so the money the Lashkar-e-Taiba is generating, it will transfer to Indian Mujahideen in India. So this is their sister organization. So the funding they are getting, they will transfer to it. This is not a state funding, but it is self-funding. Or they must be doing some local illegal activities, like they may do extortion and they may do drug trade. So that would be for their self-funding through their local network. Local means if a terrorist organization is working at a district level, so their local activities will come under the self-funding. And then they will do some revenue generating activities like drug trafficking, like gun running, like protection money and transnational activities, and then fake Indian currency notes. So these all activities are those in which the terrorist organization at the unit level means there must be a terrorist organization is there in Pakistan or in Uttar Pradesh, and then there are many small units of those terrorist organizations. So all this money will get accumulated at the unit level and then it gets distributed. So these revenue generating activities are done for the sole purpose of funding these terrorist organizations for buying bombs and for creating fear among the public. So when we talk about revenue generating activities, the biggest source of revenue generating activities are fake Indian currency notes, which have been in circulation for a long time, and demonetization was a step towards curbing those fake Indian currency notes. But again, many of my friends have also seized fake notes of the new currency notes, and again that has started coming in circulation. So you should know first of all what are the security features in the new currency notes, because this question can be expected, because there are 7 more security features apart from the old currency note. And you should also know about what efforts have been taken to curb the fake Indian currency notes. What was the section in UAPA regarding the fake Indian currency notes? You must be knowing that in the amended act of UAPA in 2008, economic security term has been added, which says that if anyone supplies fake Indian currency notes, he can be booked under UAP Act. That would be tantamount to doing a terrorist act, supply of fake Indian currency notes, because that is helping in financing of the terrorist activities. And a related topic to this is money laundering. And you all must be knowing that money laundering has 3 steps: placement, layering and integration. So I won't deal with that in a detail, but you should go through this topic carefully, because this is a very important topic and questions have been coming related to that, and it would be coming. And how money laundering helps in terrorism, and how money laundering should be curbed, and what are the legal measures to fight money laundering and financing of terrorism. I would like to talk about the legal measures about fighting money laundering and financing of terrorism. The first one is the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Prevention of Money Laundering Act is there, under which Enforcement Directorate is the investigating agency, and there is one Financial Intelligence Unit which collects intelligence regarding all the activities which are helping in money laundering. And the Prevention of Money Laundering Act punishes all the activities of money laundering. If a person is laundering money which is generated due to a criminal activity, the person gets punished in under Prevention of Money Laundering Act also, and for the criminal activity he has done for that also. So I just want to differentiate between black money and money laundering, which many of you must be knowing that black money is the money which gets generated by not paying the income tax over it. But money laundering is the money when you are laundering the money which is generated due to a criminal activity. That can be due to drug trafficking, due to gun running. So that is a very threatening thing for India. And that's why the Prevention of Money Laundering Act is an important act, and it becomes an important question for the UPSC examination also. And apart from that, we have Benami Transaction Prohibition Act, we have NDPS Act, and we have RBI Know Your Customers, Anti-Money Laundering norms. So these all are the legal measures which we use for fighting financing of terrorism. So this becomes a very important topic because the demonetization has recently taken place, and then
Even we have FATF, Financial Action Task Force.
yes.
Sir, in a way we can say that all the money laundering comes under black money.
No, we cannot say that.
So we are not paying the tax for money.
We can say that, but we have to differentiate between black money and money laundering. Because if a person is caught with black money, we will just ask him to pay tax over that, and the tax would be high. If you have read the recent Black Money Act in 2015, he has to pay some 3 times tax for that. But for money laundering, he will be booked in the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. That is a criminal act. He will be punished. He will be imprisoned for that, and that is not a criminal act. He will only have to pay fine over that. That is the difference. And the institutions fighting for financing of terrorism are Enforcement Directorate, Financial Intelligence Unit, your Combating Financing of Terrorism cell in the Ministry of Home Affairs, CFT cell. These are the 3 most important. And apart from that, of course, your Reserve Bank of India, your banks, and your Central Bureau of Investigation help these agencies in fighting financing of terrorism. And CBI. So you should always know the role of these agencies in fighting financing of terrorism, because any question can be asked from any angle. In all those angles, you will have to apply the role of these agencies, and that will make your answer a bit original and a bit enriched. And when you were talking about Financial Action Task Force, these are the international measures, international cooperation we are taking for fighting terrorism. And then you should always know about the institution involved in fighting terrorism, like the intelligence agencies are there. Those are the international agencies. I am talking about intelligence agencies, like your Research and Analysis Wing, your RAW, National Security Guard. Can you tell me the difference between NSG and NIA? National Security Guard and National Investigation Agency.
NIA is for post terror activities, like after the incident has happened, to investigate. NSG is to prevent or to.
So you are
NSG is more of a response kind of.
NSG is for after terrorist activities. If a terrorist act has taken place,
During the terrorist maybe wait or this.
NSG is an agency which will fight terrorist activities. If a terrorist act is taken place, NSG will go and fight it. Means those are the commandos, black commandos, like you saw in 2611. They were fighting the Mumbai terror attack. National Investigation Agency will investigate the attack. Means who has done the attack, which bomb materials were taken, which group must have attacked it, and then they try to arrest the terrorists. So that is the difference between NIA and NSG. And then one net grid is there. That is the National Intelligence Grid, which collects the intelligence from the local level. For example, I would say that there is a local police agencies, and then there are local intelligence agencies, and then there are local people. They try to and then the banks are there, then Reserve Bank of India is there, Enforcement Directorate is there. They collect intelligence from all these agencies, and there is a portfolio where they keep all this intelligence, and then they share back to these agencies to fight terrorism. So that is the purpose of net grid. And this is an important question, like sir was saying that this is an expected question for many years, but it can come anytime. So you should study about net grid, you should study about multi-agency center, and why was National Terrorism NCTC, National Counter-Terrorism Center not started, and then how multi-agency center is different from National Counter-Terrorism Center. These are expected questions which can come any year. If not in 2017, they may come in 2018. That may be asked in your interview, and that may be used in your essay examination also. So these are topics which you should study over. And apart from the other measures to fight terrorism, I would like to focus on an important topic, that is the role of media in fighting terrorism. And I would also like to talk on a case study on it. First of all, I would like to say that when you talk about media, what are your expectations from media? That media should advance the national propaganda, and then media should separate the terrorists from the media. Media should not showcase terrorist incidents, and then they should present terrorists as criminals. They should show that these terrorists are criminals and they are affecting the national security of India. They should provide information to the police and help them in fighting terrorism. They should help in diffusing tension during a terrorist act. They should avoid publishing of disturbing images through social media, and they should not help in spreading rumors, and they should help in supplying intelligence to the police, and they should not do a live coverage of a terrorist incident. But what does media do? What does media do? What they do? They just want themselves to be the first person to highlight a story. The story can show gruesome images. The story can be showing people dying, but they are a sort of oxygen for the terrorism. Terrorism cannot live without media, because if a terrorist has attacked Bombay, the people of all over the country get threatened because of media, because media is showing those images. So the purpose of terrorism is to spread fear, and media helps in doing that. And why the media do this? Because they have their own intentions and they have their own profits. They want to be the first person to highlight a story, and then they want a dramatic story also, because they want to sell themselves, because the money that they get from advertisement is not very high. They have a philosophy of a free flow of information. They say that our information should flow in a free manner. Then how should we control the media? You can always be asked the question that we expect something else from media, and then media acts in a very different manner. And what measures should be taken to control the media? That could be a question in your examination. And media and terrorism and role of media can always come as an essay question and also as an interview question also. So you should give your thought on the topic of how to control the media, not how to control, I would say how to manage the media, and what steps should be taken and what steps have been taken. You should never say that what should be taken. You should always talk about what have already been done. Like there is a National Broadcasters Association. This meeting takes place yearly and half yearly, which talks about the policies of the media, and then how media should act at a hostage situation, and how government and media interact with each other. These all topics you should know. And I would like to talk about the case study of media.
Before he takes case study, let me add something. Do you have your own independent thinking on the role of media? Do you have any such view which is your view that how media should function. Do you know what is media ethics? Do you know why media was created? Do you know what are the foundational values of media? And whether those views can get through in the time when media is being, let's say that, owned by, run by corporates, politicians, and other such people. Whether your view can get through all these aspects, and then you can place that view, yes, this should be the media. When challenges come between, let's say, patriotism and values of media, then what media should do? When there are internal security challenges, and there is a role of media in that, whether media should favor security forces, whether media should take the side of security forces, not in a biased way, but whether media should cooperate with security forces so that the security forces can tackle internal security challenges, or media should stand by its own values. So these things will help. Today it is very difficult to get an independent view on media. Either you want a pro view or anti view, or a balanced view. We don't have a critical view. Right. And there will be many such issues that suppose one such he is trying to bring. Right. But day to day administration face this challenge. Right. Let's say that in Naxalite areas, security forces are fighting against them. Whether media should report the, let's say that the reversals faced by security forces. Because security forces think that if you show all these things, so it will boost the morale of Naxalites. So whether media should not report. So there are many issues, let's say that. And here we do not want, in ethics paper basically, ethics paper does not want an answer which you shoot to India. Ethics is not, let's say that, Indian. Ethics is a very independent entity. What is ethical is not Indian necessarily. And what is Indian is not necessarily ethical. Will you be able to write all these things? It's not in this way. Will you be able to express your ethical view? That is a challenge. Which, let's say that, he may not be very conclusive on that. So he will say, okay, yes.
Yes, so the case study goes like this. The role played by media during terrorist attack has been very disturbing, and we have all seen the role played by media during 26/11 terror attack. They telecasted the live coverage of the operations conducted by police and NSG. The media clippings helped the terrorists in maneuvering their position and increasing the damage. The same role was played by one of the electronic media channels, you must be knowing that, during Pathankot attack. The channel revealed strategically sensitive detail on the television during the attack. The information could have been picked by the terrorists, compromising not only national security but also the lives of civilians and personnel. MHA gave a notice against this behavior of that channel. After the period of 6 months, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting gave a notice for banning the channel across all the media platforms for a day. The day chosen for executing a ban was crucial as it was on the day succeeding US elections. Therefore, the news channel suffered a huge economic loss on this account. However, the channel retracted by saying that it has only published the information available in public domain. It claimed to have been singled out in this step and remarked that the decision represented an attack on the freedom of media. So my question is, what are the ethical issues involved in the coverage by this news channel and decision taken by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting? Means what were the ethical issues involved when the media was showing these images, and what were the ethical issues while Ministry of Information and Broadcasting took this decision?
So one ethical issue is the freedom of speech and expression.
Yes. By the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, you are saying. So means, is it ethical to suppress the freedom of media when national security is at stake? Or could this be managed in a better way by the media or by the ministry? And then if it can be managed in a better way, a second question would be that what is that better way, according to you, if you are an administrator? If you are an administrator, if you are not a media person, you are banning a channel. What else could you have done?
Imposing fines or penalties.
National security cannot be compromised on any ground.
Yes.
You cannot compromise the national security.
Hmm.
With the media or with any. We have to take the national security first thing. So that is what is that.
Issue is what is national security. That should also be taken into consideration. Anything you cannot compromise in the name of national security. What is national security? And how national security is compromised? That should also be taken, I guess. So we should not tell nothing can be compromised in the name of national security. Because he wrote many things on national security. Right. You remember? Right. So we should not write this sentence is very mindlessly written. In the name of national security, nothing can be compromised. National security is above everything. Yes, it is. But what exactly is the national security we are talking about? If a news broadcasts, a channel broadcasts something, does it affect national security? This question should be asked. When a media is broadcasting something, whether it is affecting national security. And yes, if it is affecting, so then what is the right action? So we cannot simply say, yes, media cannot, etc. Yes, nothing is absolute. Already we have told. Right. Nothing is absolute. Media has no absolute freedom. We do not have absolute freedom, but the state does not have absolute power. That we should also know, so you will answer his question by the way.
See, what should happen is that, of course, internal security and national security is a very important subject for the state and it cannot be compromised. But the thing is that the media channel is not against national security. It is only supporting the values of media, that is free flow of information and freedom of speech. So what a good administration should do is start supplying positive stories. Start supplying the stories from the side of the administrator. They will publish that also. They are not, no media channel gets their funding from the terrorist organizations. No one does that. And the government also has a media cell. They have a public relations agency. Those agencies should work at par with the public relations agencies of the terrorist organizations. So we should try to increase our efficiency rather than mindlessly targeting any channel. And this step cannot be completely said that it is a negative step. It is a good step because it gave a message to all the other channels. Such punitive steps should be taken. But we cannot, in the answer, we cannot directly write that it is right or it is wrong. We have to have a balanced view, and we should try to mention what were the ethical issues while media was publishing those. Why the media published that? We have to give the support of media also. Means for what values were it following while publishing these news, and why Ministry of Information took this decision, and then we should give a better answer. I mean, what more steps can be taken? This is a sort of a answer writing skill for the main examination, in which we have to give a balanced view and we don't have to give a radical view. And then our answer should be holistic and it should consist of higher number of points. Means it should be thought provoking. That's why I told that whenever you read a case study or hear a case study, try to jot down your thoughts, try to connect them, and try to remove radical points out of it, and try to make a balanced answer. That would be a good strategy for getting good marks.
Yes, let me add. Although we'll take such kind of case study later stage also, and we'll tell it. But when ethical issues, so you will know ethical issues only when you will understand the subject matter, the stakeholders in that. And let's say that there are three prominent stakeholders. One can be state, the second is media, third is citizen. So at least three ethical issues will come, not one. One ethical issue related with the state, its security. Second ethical issue related with media, its independence, functioning is being affected. Third, the citizens' right. The citizens have the right to get true information, not a managed information. If Pathankot attack was not managed well by the government, so government cannot give a managed information to citizen that it did well. Okay. And it cannot gag media. These are the rights of citizen. Okay. So citizens have also right to get true information. And who will give that true information if media is not independent? Okay. So these are the ethical issues, let's say. You cannot only analyze from a state perspective. National security is for citizens. State is what? A state is not a physical entity. State consists of we, all the people in a particular territory. Right. And if people do not enjoy any rights, so what for that national security is? So this is how, let's say, that we should have taken the ethical issues involved in this. And certainly the question is not demanding to write a pro-state answer, a pro-government answer. Yes, national security was compromised, and therefore the government ministry department, they should send information or send order to ban for 1 day. And 1 day is a reasonable one. That is not, let's say. You don't have to write a pro-state answer. You don't have to write a pro-media answer. You don't have to write a pro-citizen answer. Rather, you have to write an ethical answer. Okay. What exactly could have been appropriate way to address this issue, that you have to write. And when you write what should be the appropriate way to address this issue, it is in favor of all the three. It is not in the, let's say that this favor of state or media or citizen. You are telling all the three to function in a right way. Okay. So this is how, let's say that what he was saying is, administration should show its efficiency. Right. If administration is efficient, you handle Pathankot very well. No media can show that yes, Pathankot was mishandled. Can media broadcast like that? But if it has been mishandled, yes, media will certainly broadcast. It has the right. So this is how state efficiency should be enhanced. Right. So this is how, let's say, that you approach it. Yes.
And one more important topic for the examination would be narco-terrorism. The term narco-terrorism is written in this way because narcotics and terrorism, these are different activities, but they are dependent on each other for their sustenance. They show a sort of symbiotic relationship. If terrorism is not there, then narcotism will not sustain. And if narcotism is not there, then terrorism may not sustain. Because this is a very important funding agency for terrorism. What happens that the money generated due to drug trafficking is a very easy money. For example, I would like to say that the drugs which are grown in Pakistan, which the cost price of that is rupees 10. Let's say for 10 grams the cost price is rupees 10. That drug, when sold in US, sold for $100,000. So that is the profit margin, and this profit margin is shared by all the intermediaries, like the person who has grown that drug, the person in India which is circulating it, the courier agent which are helping it in transferring of that drug from one state to another, the shipping agent which are shipping it to the another country. So this quick money and easy money generated by drugs is used in the financing of terrorism. And secondly, the money which is generated due to drug trade is means filtered or laundered using the procedure of the money laundering, and that laundered money again come as an investment to the terrorist agency. So, and what happens is that drug traffickers also want to remain in constant relationship with the terrorists, because this helps them in sustaining their activity. Because these terrorists create an influence on the government. They try to influence the policies of the government, and many of the terrorists, not in India but in countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan, they form a part of the government. Like you say, the head of Lashkar-e-Toiba is a very important person in Pakistan, which is a terrorist for India. So these people are a part of the government or an important policy maker for the country. So when these terrorists are getting their funding from the drug traffickers, they will make policies which help in the flow of drug trade. in the media we think that government is taking all the steps for curbing the drug trade or curbing illegal alcohol. But there are people, at least 30% in our government, which will try to increase drug trafficking or try to increase illegal alcohol for their selfish means. And this thing is much higher in countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, and other terrorist-affected countries. So this is how the drug trafficking and terrorism, they share a symbiotic relationship. And this is what is narco-terrorism. That is the growth of narcotics and growth of terrorist activities because of that. And this is an important topic for India because we lie between the golden crescent and golden triangle. And all the drugs pass through our country, and it is not only ruining the youth of our country, it is creating a threat to the internal security of India. And you can go through the roots of what are the roots of drug trade. It comes from the India-Pakistan border. It comes from Nepal. It comes from Bhutan. It comes from Myanmar also, and then it comes from the sea routes. Like it comes from Sri Lanka, from the sea, and it comes from small islands, and then it comes from the air routes also. It goes from New Delhi to it goes to Lagos. It goes to Addis Ababa, and then to US. These are the routes of the drug trade which you should take a note of, because this is a very basic topic. This is not an advanced topic, and this is a very sort of topic which you should know for writing good answers in your essays and good answers in your examination. And then similar to the institutions which are there to fight terrorism, there is this thing NDPS Act also, which had same powers like UAP Act, in which you will not get a bail till 1 year once the person is booked in NDPS Act. And there is a NDPS policy in which various measures are given to reduce this thing, your drugs trade, and you can go through that. It's also an important topic. I would like to come to an important topic of Jammu and Kashmir militancy, and in that I would like to talk about the history of Jammu and Kashmir militancy and how it has grown and how it has come to such a disastrous proportion in today's time. Recently you must have heard the news of a DSP being lynched by the mob. And why such a situation has come in today's time? See, this Jammu and Kashmir militancy started when new state of Pakistan was formed from India, and then Pakistan wanted to acquire Kashmir, and it has also acquired some parts of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and then it started sending some tribal forces to India, and in return of that Indian army attacked them, and local people got antagonized. So that is the starting of your Jammu and Kashmir militancy from 1947. But Pakistan lost these wars, right? After that, what happened that Shimla agreement took place, and then Kashmir Accord also took place, but the main starting era of radicalization and Kashmir militancy was in 1980s, when Islamization of Kashmir took place. And what happened that money started coming from Saudi Arabia for Islamization of Kashmir in 1980s. This was the turning point. And what happened is that many of the names of the villages was changed, names of the roads were changed, and the whole Kashmir, the efforts were made to give it an Islamic color to the whole Kashmir. And this was happening, and many of the madrasas were started in Kashmir. They started giving training on guerrilla warfare, and then they started radicalizing the youth of the Kashmiris. This was the turning point. After that, when this money started flowing in 1980s, after 1986, Islamic violence started taking place, and many of the Kashmiri Pandits were attacked by the local people, and then radicalization took place in the media also, and then there was Afghanistan war was there, which influenced further Islamization in Kashmir, and then when we saw the years of insurgency after 1980s, 1990s, so that was till 2008. Insurgency was predominant in Kashmir. But what is happening after 2008 is known as subversion. That is the most disastrous situation India has seen till yet. what is happening in subversion is that the local people are using various techniques to subvert the present government and the present social order. What is at very small incidents, like if a youth is killed and if a government has taken a wrong policy, or if a accident, very small, if an accident has taken place, many people come on the roads and they start stone pelting. And stone pelting of stones of 500 kg, 500 gram, 1 kg, many thousands to 2,000 people will come on road and they will start doing stone pelting. What they want to show? They want to show that they don't accept this social order. They don't accept this government. They don't want to be a part of India. That is what they want to show after 2008. This is known as subversion.
But they voted for the government, sir.
They voted for the government. They have to vote for someone, right?
Yeah.
They have to vote.
75% voters.
They will have to vote for someone, and at that time they wanted a change. Like in India also we wanted change in 2014.
Recently they boycotted the election.
See,
On some
what is
parts of Kashmir.
Hmm?
Not in every part.
Not everyone.
Some parts.
See, they will boycott the elections and they will do stone pelting. They will create public order problems. What is happening in Kashmir is that this is the agenda of Pakistan to create subversion in Kashmir. What will they do in the subversion? They will try to show that Kashmiris don't want to live with India. That's why Kashmir should be a part of Pakistan.
But same thing is happening in POK also. They don't want to live with Pakistan also.
So that India is doing in Kashmir, then POK. The similar thing in India, the Indian intelligence agencies are doing that thing in POK. What Pakistan intelligence agencies are doing in India. They are mingling with the local population, try to create a view against the Indian government and try to create law and order problem at very small things. And similarly, India is giving a similar reaction to that. So, but what we see in media is that India is good and Pakistan is bad. That's what we see in media. But that is a biased view. But if you go into the administration and talk to the intelligence people, that is also managed and this is also managed. And the people who are suffering are the local people, because their views are being changed. They are not able to live a peaceful
Why
life.
are they doing so like this?
Why India is doing or Kashmir is doing?
Why they are doing like it's all wastage and creating internal problems.
Pakistan is doing that because they want Kashmir, right? And India is doing as an answer to that what Pakistan is doing. They are trying to create pressure on Pakistan so that they stop doing this. That is the
Unemployment is the main problem in Kashmir also.
Unemployment is the reason why this is happening, why this is propagating, why both the countries are succeeding in doing this. That is it.
But POK has 35% area out of Kashmir, 30% area China. But
See, let me intervene. This way we will reach to nowhere. Because these things will not address the issues. Issues are very broad and it's very difficult to tell in a very short case why India is doing, because this is how the international relations, and there are many ways to deal the issues. So you cannot deal some issues unless you, let's say, have certain give and take. Right. But these things should be taken in a short run, not a long run solution. So we cannot say why India is doing this, whether India is doing this, how much it is doing it. These are very different issues. Let's be some other way, some other time these things should be addressed. Right. Because you know that in past also, if you see, Prabhakaran was trained by India, terrorism, so CIA trained Osama bin Laden. You see, there are lots of such histories. Right. Why we do it, etc. They are very different issues. So they should be more tackled when you read those specific topics. Let's focus to what he's talking about.
And no controversial question will be asked in examination regarding to Kashmir. A question which can ask you that what are the challenges to the peace process? I mean, why peace is not sustaining? So in which you can write 7 to 8 non-controversial points. And if this question asks that, you can ask write points like that there are like-minded people who try to clear law and order situation all the time. And then there is funding from Pakistan. And then there is the Kashmir issue is a long-standing political issue from 1947. So it cannot be sorted out in a few months or something like that. And then deployment of army and central armed police forces creates instances of human rights violation. And because of this human rights violation, the feeling of alienation gets escalated in the Kashmiri population. And of course, there is a feeling of separation and alienation because of high unemployment and high level of political instability and a very violent environment. So because of this, these all things, there's a peace is not able to come in Kashmir. So this type of question can be asked, and you should always write a balanced answer. And controversial.
Same thing I will tell in another way around. See, there are two things, one immediate, other ultimate. Okay. What you immediately do, what you ultimately do. Okay. He was facing a situation, and it was a situational action, where he could have, he has saved many lives by compromising the rights of one person. Okay. Now, let's say that immediate run, it is justified. Although it is not considered as a virtuous action. It is a reasonable action you can take, but in terms of ethics, if you take, it is not a virtuous action. It is justified on one ground that it ended helping others' lives, saving others' life, and his life has also been saved. Only thing is that yes, he may have gone through psychological trauma and other individual rights, democratic rights, somehow breached. But the ultimate thing comes later. Thereafter, you should ensure that such things should not be repeated by the military. Military is trained to save and defend by sacrificing life. Military is not trained to, let's say that, take somebody else's life as a basis to save others' life. This is not military. It should be taken as an exceptional situation, exceptional or let's say that one such abnormal situation which military should avoid and send a right message to society. This should be right in ultimate analysis. And therefore, let's say that what military general is giving a statement, etc., although we don't need to write all these things, I'm taking just for the class, he should have not given. See, if one person is also terrorized, entire masses are also terrorized. So it is not the right of one individual. If one person is made as a human shield, it shivers other individuals also. And saving life of people and traumatizing entire community or certain sections, so it is not saving at all. You cannot have only physical security to people. You need to ensure social, psychological security to people, which is also part of your national security. You should give a broad analysis, let's say that, immediate run you are justifying his action. But certainly in some other analysis, it is not a right action which should be repeated by the military. This is how we should try to write answer. Any other question? Right. So, we'll finish, let's say that, this session, and if you have any other question, you can ask.
Sir, while we write the answers, can we, especially in case of ethics, I'm not talking about content, but in writing style, can we write sentences with a question format like this? What if these incidences are repeated in future? And question mark.
Yes, it can be. In question form, you can ask question, write answer. This is the answer. This while questioning, you can answer.
While answering, can we
Yes, while answering, you can question. Yes, it is quite possible. Right. See, the question is that certainly he is administrator and he cannot be the way examination, etc. But he tackled one such situation in Maharashtra protest very well. Right. So you can see he may be good in action also, and there was some, let's say that, law and order issue in Maharashtra in that district, and he tackled it well. Although he should have shared that aspect, but the striking thing from his, let's say that, view, you can say, he belongs to Indian administration. He is an insider. We are not insider, we are outsiders so far. So he is an insider, although some of you may be in government job. So he is an insider, and when insider says such view, Especially, let's say, on Jammu and Kashmir and Burhanwani case, what should be? Especially on media case, he says that there should be positive role by administration. Right. So you can also see that the answers should not be deliberately balanced. Deliberately balanced means deliberately pro-government. Okay. So this is the most important aspect. I will try to give message to you this, because many a time we think, let's say, candidates are of view that we have to write a pro-government view. Or in the case study, when there is a conflict between media and security forces, certainly you have to go to and take the side of security forces, not media. Right. But that is not the case. It should be more of a critical thinking. This is how we can say that. So now we'll focus. Let's say, can we take a short break and then we can talk. I will take my aspect on all those how to write, what to write, the commands and demands in the answers, and how to differentiate between them. What do you mean by comment? Critically analyze, critically examine, critically comment, discuss, elucidate, etc. All these things. Do you have any such differences between them? Do you understand the differences between them? Whether we should follow all these things or not? Great. Yes, some people can say that we don't need to follow, but yes, there's that we always say there is a difference between orange and quinoa, isn't it? You cannot say quinoa orange, isn't it? Isn't it? There is a difference between, you cannot write in comment critically examine and critically examine comment. At least this should be followed. Okay. So, there are many different other aspects, let's say that. So, basically, or we should continue, let's say that. You can, let's, after half an hour.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So, instead of giving break, let me finish in that time itself. See, first thing is this. Okay. Identify the topics which are common to all the 4 papers, common to 3 papers, common to 2 papers, and common to 1 paper. It's not common. Are you able to identify those topics which can be applied in all the 3-4 papers? You should prepare them well, because at least they will benefit minimum 1 place, maximum 3 places or 2 places. Okay. So, urban governance or urbanization, okay, so can be a topic related to all the 3 papers. In paper 1 also already is mentioned, paper 2 not mentioned, but part of polity or part of governance, and paper 3 part of economic governance. Okay. So are you able to identify the topics which have interdisciplinary, or let's say that their applications can be found across the 3-4 papers? Sort out them, prepare them. This is first. This is how I made it. Second thing is, find out the topics which are confined. Confined in the sense they are less dynamic, and they don't have, let's say, that many dimensions. Identify those topics in all the 4 papers and prepare a good note on that topic with all the key terms, the examples, the references, etc. Let's say that investment models in economic paper 3. You cannot have hundreds of investment models. No. There can be few investment models. Right. Are you, let's say, aware about those few investment models? Right. So this is a confined topic. Right. And you should be always ready with you don't have to read it again and again. Let's say. And you will have a note which you can revise and you will be very thorough on that. Right. Similarly, we gave an example of pressure group. It is a very confined topic. It is less dynamic topic. Do you have a note on pressure group? Right. Similarly, let's say citizen charter. It's very confined. Governance is not. Citizen charter is. Right. Anything is governance, so it is not confined topic. But citizen charter is a very confined topic, less dynamic. And when a question comes, are you able to write a good answer on citizen charter? Not. We have experience, people do not write. Right. Why? Because citizen charter, either you think you are intelligent enough to write in examination, right, or you take it non-challengely, right. So these, let's say that gives two strategy, especially the second strategy will make your preparation more objective. At least, let's say, even if there are 20 topics across the 4 papers, 20 topics you are well prepared. And your answer will be very objective. Necessarily, at least 2, 3, 4, whatever the questions will be asked, necessarily questions will be asked. It's not that there will be no question on pressure group, no question on citizen charter, self-help group, etc. There would be at least one question. And it is our experience when people write answers, we don't find that they write basics. Means all those aspects needed in the answer. We need to have some basics. So you should know some basics of a topic, some key aspects of the topic, right, some negative or problems of the topic, right, or some issues of the topic, some good examples of the topic, right, and something to conclude, say something. Let's say you get a question on citizen charter, so don't write everything in beginning. You have to conclude also. So everything is not served in beginning when you go anywhere in reception. Some things are left also for, right. So everything is not served. Isn't it? So don't try to write everything upfront when as soon as you start writing answer. This is called writing essay. What I should write in introduction, what I should write in body component, how I should end, it is already pre-decided first, or it is spontaneous. Spontaneous means ki you have the ability to generate and write that situation. So it will come automatically, your introduction, it will come automatically, your body section, it will automatically come the way forward you write. You don't have to think much. But spontaneity will come only when you have conditioned yourself to think in that way and write in that way. That's why practice is important. Lots of practice you should have. You should write, he told, 35 years of paper. Right. It was his self-insight, which you may not have even read in 35 years of paper. Because you can get self-insight by 5 years of paper also. Isn't it? But now a new thing he told, we were telling you will tell some new approach. Do you read all these papers? As I told you, we are so dispersed that we keep reading papers of many other things rather than UPSC. This is our experience also, let's say that. But you read certainly, if not 35 years, so at least read since 2013. Read it again and again. Read it again and again. We even read those papers again and again. Exactly how they ask questions. From which topic they are asking. Right. How they frame those questions. Right. These things will give you self-insight. So I was talking on the second point. The second point was that you should have the confined topics prepared well. This is how. Now, the third thing you should come and contemporary issues and developments. And you identify those all contemporary issues and developments in all the three papers. Okay. Paper 1, paper 2, paper 3. So, you should topic wise go for getting contemporary developments. Okay. Even in history, there is again and again we talk whether there can be a third world war. So whether there can be a third world war, this is how I can say that. A contemporary debate it is. Either you can geopolitical aspect or whatever you take. Are you getting that? If today question is a right to education act, are you aware about right to education act? Okay. So this is a contemporary development. So on the right to education, further beyond many other issues are there. Although there are many, at least write the topics of contemporary development. At least you yourself write. Let's take regulatory bodies or regulatory issues on which how many regulatory issues you can count. Right. How many regulatory issues you can count? Think. What are the regulatory issues in recent times? Right. So you should, unless you think yourself, what will happen? This year suppose there is a regulatory issue or no regulatory issue. If this year there is regulatory issue or no regulatory issue, at least in test papers also you will not find its significance. Test papers are also in general inclined towards more current developments and popular topics. And at times you know what it does. So you have to think those contemporary topics, right? And at least write down those regulatory issues. Let me count some regulatory issues. One can be telecom sector, which has not been asked so far. Railway tariff authority has been asked. The one sector they have asked, possibly they may not repeat. So telecom sector is another regulatory issue. Transport sector is another regulatory issue. Right. Drug medicine sector is another regulatory issue. Food standard, that time, let's say it was in news, they have not asked, but still it remains time to time we'll find that is also a regulatory issue. And in general, regulatory issue in our country. Liberalization, globalization and regulation. Right. So our environmental regulation, real estate regulation. So are you able to at least sectorally think? Why? If you sectorally think today and at least you know 2-3 points you have written somewhere, and by chance that question comes in examination, that 3 points become for you most important. I knew something. This is what it is. And that time you will be wondering that, or feel very happy, at least 3 points I have written relevant. This is how it is. Because let's say a test paper can ask, it has limitation. There are 20 questions, it will not ask 5 questions on regulatory bodies. A test paper will ask only 1 question on regulation. And suppose we ask on transport sector, they ask on telecom sector. Suppose we ask also telecom sector, they ask medicine sector. Okay. You ask medicine also, they ask elsewhere. It is a miss. It is very coincident, a rare coincidence. You ask a medicine sector regulatory issue and they have also asked. Very rare coincidence, which happens once in few years. This is how it is. It does not happen so often because they are very also watchful of all such activities. Right? And they want to make their paper different from all the institutes. See their challenge. Right? Different from all the institutes. And how they will make it different? By asking all those unexpected questions. So they cannot do every time. At times they will ask expected questions also. 2013 paper, GS paper 3. Many questions. So this is how it happens, let's say that. You need to understand these things. So you have to yourself prepare those contemporary issues and don't get swayed by, carried away by only current popular issues, which they may not ask. They will not certainly ask all popular issues. Although we should know, we should read them, but certainly you should be also aware about the last year, before that, 2013 issue also, 14 issue also. These things will happen. And then comes the current developments. Contemporary developments, then current developments. Right. And in all those 4 categories that we have told, 1, the common topics, 2nd, the confined topics, 3rd, the contemporary issues, 4th, the current issues. In even 4 you can find some common. Right. And if you find some common, try to give more. Certainly that area should be very strong. Right. Like say smart city. They have been asking optional also, GS also. Right. So optional also, GS also they are asking. And I know people do not know basics of smart city. You do not know basics of smart city. What you will start writing? Some scholarly aspect of smart city. Right. But you don't write basics. Right. This is the basic problem in preparation. Fundamental problem in preparation. You should know every topic's basics. Right. Because many times it is said examination answer should be 10 plus 2 standard. Right. This is how it is. 10 plus 2 standard. Although syllabus is a post graduation level, but you have to write. You have to lower your standard. Basics you have to write. Na? You are not habitual to write basics. You are habitual to write some scholarly answers, and that's why your answer is not a good answer. Okay. Because writing basics are more, let's say, more challenging than writing some scholarly answer. You can write, give a lecture on smart city, but answer needs some basics, fundamentals. Right. Why this concept has been brought? What exactly the smart city? Right. Which ministry is implementing it? Right. From where the concept has been brought? What are the 3 important features of smart city? The smart city has 3 important features. Although any feature you can add, right? Smart governance, smart police, smart ICT, smart power, smart water. This is how you can keep writing. But these are generic content. They are not the 3 cardinal features which the government has given in the paper of smart city. When first time it released, or when you first time read somewhere basics of smart city. So people will not write those 3 things. What people will write largely in smart city? Although largely inclination towards IT. So answer is biased. So that's why we are saying that these 4 things you should follow. Then comes the question on, let's say, writing. But before that I will tell you that after having all these notes, you need to have a very, let's say that, gist of all notes. In those notes, only, let's say, you have a self-help group note, it can be 3-4 pages. Even let's say 2 pages, you have a note on self-help group of half page or 1 page. Only key terms should be written. Only key facts, key terms, examples, that's all. Great. And you don't make all topics, but make at least 40% of the topics. 33% with the selection order. No, less than that. Prelims में 33% से कम आएगा तो disqualify. Mains में top करना होगा. Fundamentally flawed principle of IPS, but we cannot challenge it. Anyhow, the question is, देखो आप कोशिश करोगे सारे टॉपिक्स का बनाना तो वो कभी नहीं बनेगा, और इसीलिए अभी तक नहीं हुआ है। Because you always try to do something bigger, it creates lots of pressure, it never starts, and it is always in the position of getting ready to get ready. So, but if you think of 40%, 30%, it is achieved. This makes your preparation objective. Focus on objectivity, जिसको बोलते हैं solid preparation. So how objective preparation you have? There are many ordinary people you may seen. You may have seen, let's say, they look very ordinary, they don't also speak very scholarly, right? But their preparation is very solid. Why? These strategies they have adopted. And some people read those all scholarly books. No. सारे जो फॉरेन ऑथर्स के बुक होता है जो किसी को और समझ में नहीं आता हो, आप पढ़ रहे हो लक्ष्मीकांत, वो पढ़ रहा है ग्रैनविल आस्टिन। वो लक्ष्मीकांत पढ़ के उसने वो सारा पॉइंट्स याद कर लिया है, वो ग्रैनविल आस्टिन पढ़ा है, उसको कुछ पॉइंट्स नहीं याद है, तो लिखेगा कौन? लक्ष्मीकांत। और मार्क्स यूपीएससी देगी। Right. So this is the difference. It's not that the person who is reading granular string is not a good person or not intelligent. He is very intelligent. The only thing is that you do not know how to optimize your gain in this examination. It is a competitive examination. It is not about a scholar, let's say that test, scholarly test or answers, etc. You have to understand the demands of this examination. So this is what you need to have notes. It can be, let's say, one copy, right, a very small one, which you can read even, let's say, 15 to 20 times. Okay. 15 to 20 times. Then you will be ready with all those terms. Smart city का 3 key terms क्या है वो याद रहेगा. नहीं तो आप smart power, smart water लिख आओ. Right. And that will make a fundamental difference, right, between others' answer, your answer, and what is the demand of the question. Even if you are highly intelligent, let's say that, still you may not be able to retain these points in your mind when you have to write answers. This you need to understand. So don't play on your intelligence. You know, I am highly intelligent. Or yes, I can do it. मैंने past में भी ऐसा किया है. Past examination, this examination entirely different. Okay. So you have to become like school children, this is how I can say, and you have to memorize at least those facts. This will develop an spontaneity of thinking because you have gone through these processes also. Okay. You have not only written those notes and gist also, you have gone through the processes of thinking also. And it develops an spontaneity in you. Okay. And then you will be easily able to catch those key terms. Whenever you read even a newspaper, so you will not read the entire article. Your eyes are only on some key aspect of that article. And you will carry forward. Instead, you read entire article and you don't carry forward anything. Right. And many times you will not be able to have, or you will miss some points. Let me ask, are you aware about compassionate capitalism? What is it? Yes. Don't define it. Who has recently referred?
Mr.
Narayan. Any other person who knows? Right. So I say in my language, you do not read newspaper. In my language. Compassionate capitalism is a term used by Narayan. Right. अब उसके ऊपर कोई आर्टिकल तो आएगा नहीं. It will be a reference in news. Right. If you know compassionate capitalism, then you will try to look also what exactly it is. or at least you know Narayan Murthy has spoken. And there will be some context in your ethics paper where you can refer it, isn't it? This is called preparation. It's not that you are reading what editorial. I read Hindu editorial. I read that Hindu other articles. So yes, I am thorough with newspaper. It's not like that. There are some news and references also where many things you can validate. This is how it will happen. So these are some strategies that should follow. Unless you will do all these things, let me say that the answer you have to write 200 words. You cannot write only, you can write either those all arguments which are generic, or you can write a very abstract answer. Great. So in this examination, even if question is generic, answer should be specific. Then you will fetch marks. Don't become happy. The answer is generic. Question is very generic, so I can write also generic answer. Answer should always be very, very specific. Why? Because you have to write in 200 words. Right? You read the judgment of Supreme Court. How many pages? How many pages? You know, they write. They have such patient people, no? They have lots of patience, they keep typing all those things, like 200, 300, 500, more than that also. With all that punctuation, comma, semicolon, colon, all these things. They, you have to write 200 words. उसी में एग्जामिनर को जज करना है, नॉट विथ एडिक्वेट टाइम. उसके पास बहुत ही शॉर्ट टाइम है जिसमें आपको जज करना है whether your answer is right or not. Don't you think that whatever you write in that 200 words, not in 20 questions but at least in 10 questions, you should ensure that I have written well. I have written very exactly what is demanded, and my every word speaks. So at least 10 questions. We are not saying that you write 20 questions, which is never possible. But what are you doing in 10 questions? Minimum. And unless you do it, forget about it. Forget it. Same it will, the story will go. This year marking pattern was different. So paper 1 you got 110, paper 2 let's say 90, paper 3 let's say 106, and paper 4 let's say that 111. Next year marking pattern will differ, तो वो कुछ और हो जाएगा. और on the whole it is same. Great. So what is the difference? So the question is this, you need to understand. ऐसा नहीं कि इस बार हिस्ट्री में आया है, पेपर 1 में 110 आया है, तो नेक्स्ट ईयर भी आएगा. Forget about it. वो आएगा तो you will qualify them. If second time good marks are repeated in the same paper, so you are through. This is how. Then you will give lecture how to qualify, not to sit and think about next year. Think about this. So don't become happy कि ये 110 आया था पेपर 1 में, so now ये तो settle हो गया इशू. Great. अब now I have to focus on paper 2nd, 3rd and 4th. No, not like that. Every year, all the 4 papers are fresh papers. Your approach should be this. This year I have to ensure. Right. Then it comes what we can say writing. In case of writing, I will teach some basics, not more. Let's say that. Presentation. You should try to have a decent presentation. Not a filthy presentation, non-challenge, indisciplined, नहीं होना चाहिए. We want a decent presentation. We don't want a beautiful presentation. We don't want this. It should be decent. What is decent? Bureaucracy. Bureaucracy has a decent look, isn't it? Training center, first we will teach. Decent means proper paragraph arrangement, proper line arrangement, proper points, Right, points, let's say alignments. Should be like this. ये नहीं कि एक पॉइंट यहाँ लिख दिया, दूसरा पॉइंट यहाँ लिख दिया. Or if you are writing here, saying first one, so yes, second one should also be here. ये नहीं कि वो याद नहीं आया कि यहाँ लिखा था, यहाँ लिख दिया. ऑप्शन में दिया है A, हमने लिख दिया A, ताकि वो ज्यादा दिखेगा एग्जाम में. These are people do it. You don't know what you have written. इसलिए कि there is only one task to write answer. Wait. Then let's say it comes about proper arrangements, paragraph. Whether you have this, at least you can make it decent. Yes, there are certain factors which may not be improved, but we want a decent one. People do not have their line arrangement decent. Right. So alignments are, because you have not given these things have not mattered and you have not focused on it. Yes. College time you have to write this much thick one, so then Delhi University professors will give good marks, isn't it? और engineering में ऐसा होता नहीं था. Right. But that is not the point. You should give. If you are writing points, write very properly those points. Right. Whatever you are writing, if you not like, so write first. Many people will write as if they are making the. इस तरह से point उनका होता है, यहाँ से sentence होता है. These things should not be written at all. Why can you have to write you this? Either you write this one, or you write first, second, third, whatever you have to write. But some people keep making, even if we have told many a time in past also, we know some people, but still they do not change. Right. It is just about presentation. It has nothing to do with content we are talking. They want a decent presentation. Again, you should understand, a decent one, not a beautiful one. We don't have to beautify it. Right. This is how we can say that. Now, second is called a lucid presentation. Lucid means it should be clear. Right. Some people have habit of crisscross. जैसे एक sentence लिखा नहीं क्रॉस किया, फिर से शुरू किया. Right. And it goes on. And एक पेज पे कम किस्म, the person may have 3, 4, 10 that kind of crisscross. What will happen? ये ऐसे होगा, थिएटर में आप बैठे हैं, मूवी शुरू नहीं हुआ तब तक हैंग हो गया. थोड़ा सा उन्होंने मूवी दिखाया है, उसके बाद हैंग हो गया, फिर थोड़ा सा दिखाया, फिर सोचो क्या होगा. Your habit, why it has happened? Because of habit. आपने कभी केयर नहीं किया, आपको कभी समझ, you never thought कि these things are also important. These things are, let's say that very important for this examination. Why? When you have these crisscross, examiner will never form a complete view on your answer. You can yourself try, somebody else answer. It will create problem in forming a complete view. Right. So again, these things should not be. It should be very clear. Right. Then, if you have, let's say that habit of, or you want to make anything, let's say a circle you want to make, a table you want to make, or a triangle you want to make, or anything you want to draw. Right. You want to draw a table. It should be very decent one. Okay. ये नहीं कि people do it, what we can say. अब ये लाइन यहाँ एंड हो जाता है, इन्होंने टेबल ऐसे ड्रा किया और पूरा नीचे तक खींच दिया. You can see generally it happens in ethics paper. So why to draw this? At least you maintain this. Right. It should be properly drawn. Never write any table etc. in the end. अब जैसे आंसर यहाँ एंड हो गया और लास्ट में किसी ने, कुछ लोगों का हैबिट होता है, जो भी फिगर होता है, डायग्राम होता है, दे मेक इट इन एंड. व्हाई टू डू इट? YCB UPSC is not giving now adequate space. Since last year, you don't have all these things. What we say is that, well, let's see, all those people have written, great, their handwritten, or you can see even many other people, great. You will find it's very lucid. This is called lucid presentation, not writing. Right. Still we have not come on content part. We are talking only on some peripheral issues. Great. Now, if you take content part, presentation, content. Content is the most important aspect of the answer. Presentation is not. Content is the most important part of your answer. It is not presentation. It's just peripheral issue. Great. Whether you are writing what has been demanded. If you are not writing what has been demanded, your handwriting is very good. You have a very good presentation. You have written many other facts, example, but not as per demand of the question. Superfluous answer. An examiner will feel more irritated rather than happy. So again, let's say that content, which is very difficult to teach and learn. The way I began with one question, structure and behavior of the bureaucracy is responsible for lack of socio-economic development in the country. So that is the striking factor was the example that we told. There is another question, let's say that in the Indian governance system, the role of non-state actors has been marginal. Critically examine the statement. This is the question. Last year it was asked. In the role of Indian governance system, the role of non-state actors has been marginal. Critically examined. Great. This is how. Now the question has three important terms. One, that is called Indian governance system, the governance system. Second, non-state actors. And third, critically examined. Great. Non-state actors are related with voluntary organizations, civil society organizations, non-government organizations. Question is critically examined. What does it mean? See, it is like this. Discuss whether the role of, other way around the question can be framed, equivalent to, this statement is equivalent to that statement. Discuss whether the role of non-state actors in Indian governance system has been marginal or not. Great. Other way around. Whenever you get called critically examined term, it means the given question is not completely true. It means you have to write that, their role has not been marginal. In some cases, their role has been also substantial. And those some cases you have to show. Okay. It will be not appropriate to say that their role has been marginal. Okay. So in many areas they play a very important role. Do you have those examples to write where they have been playing substantial role? Okay. Do you have that example? Self-help group.
We will not name, but like RSS, not be without naming that name.
Seva. Great. So, you have to mention that they have. Even let's say that non-state actors, let's say that, especially civil society NGO, they work in many areas where the state is not present. They reach to even those areas where the state does not have reach. Right, for the vulnerable sections of our society. Right. So there are charity institutions, NGOs, civil society, etc. working in different areas, the school, hospital, etc. Slum areas, the tribal areas. There are many areas where the state has less or no reach. Great. So question is, let's say, demanding how to structure it. This is how. So you have to show, since Indian governance system, you have to show that Indian governance system regulated. So there is, in any system, there are three important stakeholders: the state, civil society, and private sector or corporate sector. The state plays its own role in many areas. It is a welfare state. Corporate sector is playing a substantial role in the field of the business. Right. Now, apart from state-led, all those institutions, corporate-led institutions, the third institutions are left are civil society, non-state actors. So that way means you have to write something also on governance system, in short. Then you should come to whether they have played a marginal role. How you will show they have played a marginal role? So you have to compare their role in India and their role in other countries, in short. To show it is marginal. Because in our country the role of civil society is much less than the role of civil society in other countries. So that will show yes, it is marginal. But then you have to refute yes, it is marginal, but still let's say there are certain areas which they play substantial. And you have to also write India is in a transition country, young country, a civil society is born, evolve over a centuries of time, and it takes time for the civil society to evolve.
So question was play role in political system or governance system?
Governance system. Right. So this is how, let's say, that you have to structure the question. In the end you have to write they have played substantial role. In the end you need to conclude also. Right. How to conclude it, what to write in that conclusion. So certainly depends on you what you write. Right. This introduction, body, etc., conclusion, there is no, let's say, fundamental rule that you should always write introduction. You should write also end with conclusion. There is no fundamental rule, but at least it is expected that in half of the questions you should write one. Again, we'll tell you, it is not a rule that you should write in each and every question, but at least in 10 questions you should do and make it a complete answer. There. This is how it is. So this way it could be. Although there are many other, let's say, that commands, you read it, although we have given in the test to do all those commands, etc. There are some commands which you should be very sensitive, especially critically examine or critically evaluate. Both are same. And when we say critically examine or critically evaluate, it means the given statement is not completely true, or the given question is not completely true. It means you have to show to what extent it is true and to what extent it is not true. It means it requires lots of factual knowledge, objective knowledge, then you will be able to prove it. When it is critically examined question does not demand to write pros and cons. In this command you cannot write a pros and cons. Great. Because let's say have pros and cons of non-state actors. Great. So pros and cons of non-state actor is entirely different than whether they have a marginal role or not. We have found that many people, when they get this command, so they write pros and cons. This is not the right structure. Rather, when there is evaluate, examine, scrutinize, there you can write pros and cons. Great. If you want to write pros and cons. Great. Another important aspect is nowadays they have been asking critically analyze. Great. Critically analyze. What does it mean when we say critically analyze? There is another term called critically comment. Great. See, critically examine or evaluate means simply given a statement is not true and we have to justify whether it is true or not. Second, critically analyze. Let's take analyze. Analyze is, you have to write an analysis. When we add the term critical, it means कि you cannot write a general analysis. You have to focus on some of the critical aspect in that analysis. Means the analysis should bring out some critical facts. Okay. So, let's say in the evolution of basic structure doctrine, judicial dominance, or let's say in the evolution of basic structure doctrine, there has been dominance of judiciary. Or the basic structure doctrine evolution has resulted into dominance of judiciary. Suppose this is a question, critically analyze. So it is different from critically examined. You don't have to reject the question. Question is now true. In critically examined, question is not completely true. Now in this critically analyze, in basic structure doctrine, you have to bring those critical facts which are cases which have resulted into dominance of judiciary, or which show the dominance of judiciary. If you do not show those facts, it is not critical analysis. This is how the difference. In analysis, you may or may not write. But in critical analysis, let's say it is a precondition to write those facts. And if you are not writing those facts, precondition is not addressed. Critically comment. There is another term. What is the difference between critically analyze and critically comment? Let's take to comment. Comment means express your view. You have to express your view when we ask comment. Means you can give your view. You can be judgmental. Okay. When the comment is given, you can be judgmental. Means now there is a chance that you can also express some views on that. Right. Let's say in media ethics we were talking. Right. So what should be the role of media ethics in these conflict zones? Critically comment. Or comment. It means that you can give your personal view. Right. How media show. Again, let's say that personal view cannot be irrational. Right. It cannot be against certain minimum standards. Even your personal view. But when we add, let's say, critically comment, then you have to whatever argue. When you argue that media should remain independent, you have to argue with some substance. Then it will become critically comment. Okay. Means whenever the term critical is added in case of analysis or comment, it demands some preconditions. It demands some important substance which examiner is expecting. Critically comment, आपने तो बोल दिया कि नहीं मीडिया इंडिपेंडेंट होना चाहिए. Why then media should be independent? You should put some substance for that. Okay. This is now. So that requires, like any state has certain institutions, or let's say that 4 institutions, and all the institutions should function in certain relative independent manner, then the state will survive. Okay. Or when the state came into existence, so this is how, let's say that 4 institutions evolved for the survival of the state. The media is also one such the pillar of the state which helps in survival of the state, but only when it remains independent. Okay. This is how. So this is a kind of substance you are trying to write to show your view, to prove your point. So these are, let's say, the differences which we follow. Other things you can ask, otherwise we finish. Other things, so they will be told throughout the test programs and discussions, etc. It is very difficult to tell in all these things, but at least this basic minimum thing we want. Right, to end here. Another thing is, don't think that you will write 20 questions, so you will get high marks. Right. This is not a strategy. If you are writing any kind of test, try to write first those questions which you know well, and skip those questions which you do not know. Don't try to begin from 1 and end to 20. This should not be the philosophy. Because space has already been fixed. First impression is lasting impression or last impression. But first question you do not know how there can be lasting impression. And you cannot write the fifth one at first place. This happened before, let's say that 2013. So when these things are not there, so it's better that first you write the questions you know very well. Try to find out in there 20 questions, even if you know 5 questions very well, you write 5 questions. What will happen? At least you will write in less time those 5 questions, and you write your good answer because you have just started writing. It will take less time, you will end up writing good answer. नहीं तो ऐसा भी situation आएगा, you write 1 to 20 and some easy questions you did not get time to write. Great. If your speed etc. problem is there, you cannot write all the 20 questions with the same standard, you know also. When you cannot write all the 20 questions with the same standard, same energy, same knowledge, so why you are bothered about that you have to write 20 questions? We teach generally you write 18 questions, forget about 2 questions. Yes, certainly you will write something in that. But if you write 18 questions, you attempt for 15 questions, I will give adequate time, good time to 15 questions, 12 questions. Other questions I will write in a very short span because I may not have itself content on that. So at least 12 questions you are writing better. Great. This is all. If you think every time you come and write the test and every time you keep writing those 20 questions, we know that the end result is same. There is no good outcome. This is how it is. So there are many speed etc. other problems. We will always advise that in that 20 questions, at least 10-12 questions you should write your outstanding one. Other questions are जैसे तैसे लिख सकते हैं. The questions you do not know completely. Completely you do not know. Right. So don't write. But ऐसा होगा नहीं. Those who people prepare for this examination, so they are trained to write anything on this, let's under this sky. Right. You know anything general? You write that general. Anything, at least 1-2 line you write. At least 1 or 2 or 3 lines you write. At least he will give you half marks. It's another matter that you wrote 150 page, 150 words, and it was not a good content. So he gave you 2.5, and you wrote only 2 lines, and he gave half. Because less than half he will not give, I guess. But at least he will give. He will not give half on the blank sheet. That's why you should write at least 2-3 lines, even if you do not know, but not more than 2-3 lines, because at least half you are getting. Right. Minimum. This is how, let's say, strategy that you should try to adopt. Let's say all about. Generally, we say time management, space management, energy management, which I have not taught much. About the table, presentation and facts, which will be telling and when you write answers. But it's all about, let's say, strategy also, not only knowledge, which make you secure, let's say, good marks in this examination, which you try to learn. But certainly, that does not mean that without knowledge it can be done. Right. Certainly, only when you know self-help group, then we expect that you can write a good answer. If the knowledge on self-help group is not there at all, how can we expect a good answer? At least certain basic level of knowledge is needed, that's all. I will finish here. And let me say that, although I should not become He has written internal security book. I think it is also in market. Actually, it is very good. It gives on all the way you are trying to tell all those details. It gives, you can see on internal security. Another book he is writing. This, although it is a fresh book, let's say, although still it is in publication, so it is not published yet. One sample copy has come. Some fresh case study, let's say, he has given on sector-wise. He has taken all the 23 civil services that you are appearing for, their service profile, challenges. That gives you knowledge about, let's say you want to know about IRTS profile and challenges, issues. So he has given those details. And then he has given 1-2 cases. So which also help you bringing some fresh ideas, etc. And diversify your base, especially in